Pye and Smith production. It is day 5 of the PDC World Championship of Darts. I'm Adam Smido-Smith. That is Matt Pieman Hill. We're going to have a quick reflection on day 4. There was just a couple of cracking games, and then we're going to look forward to the 8 games that are taking place on Saturday, day 5. It's the penultimate day of the round 1 matches, so there's 6 round 1 matches today and 2 round 2 matches today as well. So just following the same format as the previous days this week. I'll hand you straight over to the main man, Matt Pieman Hill.
Cheers, Adam. Yeah, we'll take a look through yesterday first and then go on to today's action. But yeah, I must say there was some good games yesterday, but there was also a bit of dross as well, to be honest. A lot of one-sided affairs. And probably not a vintage day at the Palace, although Paul Lim made it a day to remember, and we can get onto that. But just whiz through the afternoon session first and foremost. First game, we had Mickey Mansell 3, Halpai Puha 0. This was as one-sided as it sounds. Mansell won all 9 legs. It was a 9-0 job. Puha come all the way from New Zealand, and he's been over in the country for months trying to give himself the best chance, and it did not go to plan. But fair play to Mickey Mansell. We talked about in our previews how he'd actually had some terrible experiences at the Palace. Never won there himself. He'd actually been fined for poor play in his recent appearance. So to go and win all 9 legs and average 93, it was a really impressive performance. And he's playing Ricky Evans in round 2. So Ricky Evans, the 32 seed, the lowest ranked of the seeds. If he replicates a 93 average, he'll have a good chance against Ricky Evans. He's about 13-10 to beat Rapid Ricky. So yeah, quite a close game in prospect there. For Puha, he'll have to get himself off to Q School and hope for the best, I think. He showed at the World Cup he can play, but he just didn't really produce it yesterday.
Wow. And at Q School, where he will be joined by the one and only...
Yeah, John Part. John Part has announced yesterday on Sky that he will be going to Q School, which is great news for all darts fans of a certain vintage, I think. But whether John will get a card remains to be seen. I'd say he'll have to play out of his skin to get a card. I think the quality at Q School this year is going to be frightening. But he said he's still got love for the game, and that's why he's doing it. And like Paul Lim, who, again, we will get on to, showed yesterday, age is only a number if you have still got the ability and the drive. And I think Part has definitely still got the will to win. I'm not sure if he's still got the calibre and quality of darts to get that card, but would be great value if he does. I'd love to see John Part back on the tour. Another 3-0 in our second game. Darius Labanowskis and Chengan Liu. 3-0. Before we go any further, I just want to say Chengan Liu may have won Walk-On of the Year for coming out in an empty Alexandra Palace to You Raise Me Up by Westlife. It was a really surreal moment. This little 60-something-year-old Chinese man just walking down an empty platform with Westlife blaring through the arena. I can only imagine that if there was a crowd in and he'd done that, he would have had the crowd fully behind him. Honestly, it was utterly surreal, but there we are. I spoke to you in this match. I was quite impressed with Chengan at times. You said I got a bit carried away. I almost
you did get
carried away. I was getting sort of wound up at the fact that Labanowskis was sort of 1 or 2 after a set and a half. I just thought it was a bit disrespectful because Chengan averaged, Wayne Mardle pointed out on commentary, his hands were physically shaking when he was throwing the dart. He was so nervous. This is someone who qualified for Ali Pali over a decade ago and has come back at the age of 60-something. He was shaking. It was hard not to be willing him to do well. He averaged 83 first set, 85 second set. 85 was a good enough average to win 6 or 7 sets throughout yesterday's action. So it's not a bad average, really. He fell off a cliff in set 3 because he was playing well enough to hold his own, win a set. But Labanowskis came out and threw a 12 darter. And let's just talk about Labanowskis. I was really impressed with him, to be honest. All the fragments of his game looked to be in really good working order. He was scoring really well. His finishing was about 50%. His timing of the scores, every time his opponent hit a 140, 180, he was responding. He just looked in really good order. And he's a hard man to beat. He plays Simon Whitlock in the next round. Put in a 2-1 chance, he'll have his supporters because that was a performance where you're going to have to be on your game to beat Darius Labanowskis if he's playing like that. what I would say is scoring power is generally the way past Lewandowski. If you could hit, consistently big scores, he's a solid player, but he's not a spectacular player. And Whitlock will beat him, but he'll have to play very well. And I think he probably will, to be honest, but not a game to be missed. Next game, this was the only competitive game we had all afternoon, was Wayne Jones, Kieran Tierney. This went 3-2 to the man from Wolverhampton. I actually put Kieran Tierney up yesterday on our video and saying that I thought he had a chance of turning him over at odds against. He definitely had a chance. This was one of the games, few games in the first round that went purely with the throw. All 5 sets went with the throw. Wayne Jones had the throw. And to be honest, Jones was kind of in control of the match, but couldn't put it to bed. Tierney, their scoring was quite similar. They both averaged 86, which doesn't sound great, but over a 5-set match, where 3 of those sets went the distance, it's quite a long format. So, they were both playing solid. The difference for me was Tierney was letting too many darts slide into the 5 and 1. A surefire sign of nerves. He was pulling his dart. He's only 21 and he looked it, he's 6'6". He's a big baby, but he'll come again and again and again. Wayne Jones got the job done 3-2, came out afterwards and said in his interview that he was practicing as well as he's ever practiced. And he was so frustrated that he'd come out on the stage and played terrible. I thought he was harsh on himself, to be honest. He said that, I was really, really poor there. He wasn't really poor. I was pleasantly surprised with him. He plays Joe Cullen in round 2. And they said, how do you feel about that match? He said, sarcastically said, I'm sure Joe's terrified. But I genuinely think if he plays like that and just tidies up the doubling a little bit, it'd be tough for Cullen. And we know Cullen's had a few wobbles at the Ali Pali over the years. So interesting second round match. Yeah, fair play to Wayne Jones.
He's over 3-1, Wayne Jones, to win that game against Cullen. Yeah, and like you say, Tierney, I think will come on for the experience. Like you say, he was drifting into the 1s and the 5s and resetting quite a lot rather than just following the dart, as I think a lot of these talented youngsters do best. And he was kind of maybe thinking about it too much, to be fair to him. But you can't blame him. It's his first time up there.
He put some great finishes in. He showed his ability in flashes, but often if Wayne Jones did miss and did give him a chance, he couldn't step in and punish. And that's just an experience thing. I think he hasn't yet managed to identify these key moments in a game where he's really got to get the double, take a step back, compose yourself, make sure you hit it. Nerves, it's totally understandable. But Wayne Jones, I'm not sure I'd be getting with him to beat Cullen, but the handicap and the sets markets may well be of interest, and that's something we can look at nearer the time for that game. Last game of the afternoon, this was a 3-0 whitewash as well, but not the way that the prices would have had you thought. Jamie Hughes, we did say that we thought he was a vulnerable seed in our previews, but he got whitewashed by Adam Hunt here, and he was really, really poor, to be honest. Averaging 75, Jamie Hughes. His scoring game was just abysmal, and he's normally a good scorer, to be honest. But he, just for an example, he was outscored 27-15 on the tons count, 14-4 on the 140s count, and 4-0 on the 180s count. So there's a massive, massive disparity between the scoring. He only got 3 darts at double in the entire match. That's how far.
He hit 2 of them.
Yeah, he did. He did. So I mean,
we thought that Jamie Hughes was vulnerable. A vulnerable seed. We definitely flagged that, but I wasn't convinced that Adam Hunt was the man to dethrone him early doors. So I didn't commit to saying that Jamie Hughes will get beat by Adam Hunt, because if we remember rightly, Adam Hunt got through to the Grand Slam knockout stages virtually by accident. He was the benefactor of that Joe Cullen meltdown, if I remember rightly. So we thought Hughes was vulnerable. We didn't go as far to tip against him, but we're not surprised at the result. And like you say, 0-3, 1-3 and 1-3, it doesn't make good reading for Jamie Hughes, to be honest.
That's exactly, you couldn't have put it better. I wasn't confident enough in Adam Hunt to put him up to beat Jamie Hughes. But looking back, it's a bit of a hindsight job. Maybe we should have been, because he played really well against Lisa Ashton. And I think what we can definitely conclude is that scraping his way through that group at the Grand Slam seems to have given him a lot of confidence.
Yeah, because in the knockout round, I think it was against Whitlock, he played well. He did. And it seemed to, the accidental nature of him qualifying, he played well. I know he got beat, but he played well, and there was good signs there. But it was the 3 games that went before that put me off a little bit.
Well, let's be honest. He was a surprise to even make the Grand Slam. He was a big surprise to get out of the group, and he's a surprising entrant in the 3rd round. But he'll play Dirk van Duijvenbode next, and Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't. If I was Dirk, he's already had
No,
one.
I don't think he is.
Oh,
I think
I maybe got that wrong.
Dirk's playing Rob Cross.
Sorry, Dirk is playing Rob Cross. Can you
sorry,
find who Adam Hunt has for me? Sorry to put you on the spot, but no, just I mean, I have been impressed.
Hunt will play Cross or Dirk.
That's it.
The winner of.
That's why I've got that wrote down.
So Hunt's already through to round 3 as we speak.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, they'll both be focused on that game, and we're about to talk about Dirk, so I won't go on about Dirk. But I mean, there's no reason why Adam Hunt can't go into that game thinking he could cause another upset here, and it'd be interesting to see the respective prices when they come out. Moving on to the evening session and starting with Dirk van Dijvenbode versus Bradley Brooks. Great game, this.
Yeah, enjoyed this.
3-2. Bradley Brooks, world youth champion, and showed everybody what he can do. He came out and averaged 110 in the first set. Followed it up and took the second set as well. Dirk was fully on the rack. But we were talking through this game. I did kind of say this could be a similar situation to the Jeff Smith Chris Dobie game where he's got to get him out of there 3-0 or he's not going to get him out of there because Dirk wasn't going to play as badly as he did in that first set for the match. He averaged, I think he averaged under 80 in that first set. And so it proved. He got that third set. And then by the end of it, I think the last 2 sets, Dirk averaged around 94, 95, and Brooks's average had dipped into the low 80s. So that was a classic case of, once he got the momentum behind him, the seed, the underdog kind of wilted a little bit. But look how young Brooks is, and look at, that the first appearance at the Ali Pali, he's playing probably the person in the first round that nobody wanted to face. And he's done himself very proud. He'll have left that game with a bit of taste, what could have been. He'll feel like he should have been in the second round there, really, because he did have him on the rack. But, I don't know if you've got any thoughts. I know you enjoyed that game.
Yeah, I hope that Brooks comes out of it well, to be honest, because he started really well. He was 2-0 up, whitewashed the first set, 2-0 up in sets, playing very well, confident. His cover shooting was good. His finishing was good, very confident on the double top. But obviously he's gone on to lose now. I think he's only 20 years old. He won the World Youth Championship only a couple of weeks ago. So I hope he takes the positives out of it. And there is positives to take out of it for Dirk as well. Dirk's only reasonably a fresh face on the big stage this year. He's been on the tour, but he's only coming onto the big stage this year. He had a good run in the Grand Prix. And Dirk's had to come back from 2-0 down there. And he's had to really dig in he did. I know that Brooks's level came down a little bit, but it didn't plummet. It did come down a little bit, but Dirk's took the last 3 sets 3-1, 3-0, 3-0. So I think sometimes you need to see a bit of battle from these newer players on the scene, and Dirk showed that, and fair play to him. That's how I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that. And what we said yesterday as well is this will be the only game where Dirk will be a big favourite. Like really, the pressure is on him to get the job done. And at 2-0, it looked like he was going to fall under that pressure, but he showed he's got mettle. And
see, he can't be going 2-0 down against Rob Cross, for example. We can say what we want about Rob Cross, but he ain't letting you off the hook if he's 2-0 up and 1 set away. And it's actually a coin toss game that they're about even money, 10 to 11 to pair. I know you had a comment to make about Bradley Brooks in terms of what Model was saying playing defensive when he was 2-0 up. I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, no, I do. This is something I think we can discuss where, we're thinking about doing a wrap-up video after round 1 and 2 have concluded. Something maybe we could discuss a little bit more, because it is something we see, especially with the more inexperienced players, whereby if they have, if they're 1 set from the finishing line, particularly, so in this example, Brooks 2-1, and they have a set where their opponent has the darts, if they lose the first leg, sometimes you'll see with these younger, more inexperienced players, they almost give that set up, almost with a mindset of, I've got the darts in the last set. Let's just focus on the last set. Try and get my rhythm back. Try and get my, they're chucking darts away. They're going stupid routes on combinations and stuff. And I am a big believer that this costs players matches, because one massive factor in darts is momentum. Once you start reeling off 2, 3, 4 legs, and I think Dirk, I'm right in saying he won the last 8 legs of that match. I think.
Yep.
So. Those legs that Brooks thought were unimportant, or it certainly gave the impression that he wasn't as bothered about winning them, he seemed to be readying himself for that last set. By the time that last set had come, Van Dijvenbode had won 5 legs in a row and was full of confidence.
Yep.
You know yourself, if you're playing a game of darts and you win 5 legs in a row, you start feeling like everything's, you're in control, everything's going in. So you just can't give a quality player that run of legs in a row, even in set format. It's not good for your game. But that's something that maybe touch on a little bit more and try and pull some more examples of, ahead of that video that we'll do probably around the 23rd, 24th, just before Christmas. But yeah, moving on anyway. That would be a good game, Rob Cross and Dirk, definitely. John Henderson beat Marco Cantele 3-2. Not so big, John. God, this was a real tough game to watch. John Henderson's doubling in the first 3. Well, in the match.
He missed a hatful. Didn't he miss like 30 darts at double or something?
Yeah, I mean, at one point, when it went 1-1, and in the third set, at one point, I think he was 4 from 20 on his doubles. And to be honest, if you were watching it, you'd have been surprised that he'd hit 4. It just seemed to be a mile away with all the doubles, and he got away with it purely on the caliber of his opponent, to be honest. Cantele was blown off the park with scoring, and Henderson wasn't even at his best scoring-wise, but Cantele was just hitting a lot of no treble visits, 1 treble visits. So any 140s in the leg were meaning Henderson was getting to a double sort of 100 points before his opponent, hence having 6 darts at a double. And some legs he was still contriving to miss all 6 darts at the double, and that's why it ended up a 3-2 scoreline. But it was a strange one. Despite it going 3-2, you never really felt like John Henderson was going to lose the match, purely because of his opponent not looking like he would be able to close the game out. But John Henderson's going to need to be so much better in the next round. It was really, really under weather.
Well, he takes on Johnny Clayton in the next round. Johnny Clayton's been put in at a 2-5. I mean,
yeah, I think
I don't like playing odds on me, but that don't look short enough. I just can't get on board with this new and improved John Henderson. His haircut's way too smart. He's lost too much weight for me. I want to go back to to John Henderson of 2018, to be honest. But that brings us on to Luke Humphries and Paul Lim, probably without question the best game of yesterday. I mean, Paul Lim, how old is he now? 67-ish. Yeah. Still qualifying. I think he hit the first televised 9-dot about 30 years ago. If the crowd were in yesterday, it's a real shame that the crowd were not in. That
was my overriding feeling watching this match. How sad that there wasn't a crowd in there, because we've seen what his matches are like in recent years, and for the good majority of this game, this looked like a credible Paul Lim performance, but it looked like he was getting beat by Luke Humphries, to be honest. Humphries started well, which you've got to do in a game like that. He looked in total control. He played well, Luke Humphries. It wasn't a case of Luke Humphries playing badly. But what happened is, when Lim got it back to 2-1, there was a few moments in that 4th set, pivotal moments whereby, I can think of one leg. I think it might have been in the 5th set where they both missed an absolute handful of darts.
They ended up on double one.
I think carnage.
Took it out on double one, but
carnage.
There was bus scores. Lim hit single 16 when going for double 8, and then at the next visit he hit double 8 when going for double 16. It was all over the place.
Yeah. It was. It had a bit of everything really, but I think what we've got to do is give credit to both players, because Luke Humphries could play that game another 9 times and win it all 9 times. This was the 1 time out of 10 that the key shots went against him. Everything fell into place for Paul Lim, and he took his chances. And it's brilliant to see, because you don't know how many more times Paul Lim's going to be able to come to the Ali Pali. He talked in his interview afterwards about how thankful he was that they held a qualifier in Hong Kong, just so that he could get the chance to go there, win that qualifier, and come here just to play. And he said at 2-0 down, I just wanted to make him work for it. I just wanted to keep playing to a good standard and force a bit of pressure on it. The pressure did eventually tell on Luke Humphries, to be honest, and he'll be wondering how he's managed to lose that match. And it's a bit of a shame for Luke Humphries, because if he boxes that game off and wins 3-0, he's played Dimitri Vandenberg next, and he's thinking, I've got a free hit here. Everyone's talking up Dimitri. I'm playing really well. He knows he could go with him. These two have played in the youth championships, shared a final together. So that would have been a really interesting game. And to be honest, it's hard to see Lim causing Vandenberg the same problems that he caused Humphries, because Vandenberg's just got that little bit more nous in the big games, big stage. But I know you want to give, props to Luke Humphries, and I think it's with good reason as well.
As a Vandenberg backer, I'm glad that Paul Lim has got through to play him rather than Humphries. I think Humphries in 2021 will have a run at one of these TV tournaments, and I'm going to back him at daft prices. I think in the UK Open, I think it's one of the first ones on TV. He'll be 100 to 1 plus, and I'm going to have a couple of quid on him. I think he's not far away. He's 180 hitting, he's decent, he's pretty good. I just think if he can clean up them doubles, he's not far off Luke Humphries. He really isn't far off of it clicking and coming together. Was unfortunate last night, but I think he might take that quite well. For example, a player I get him mixed up with, Woodhouse, when he lost the other day, I thought that it looked like he'd been hit by a truck, like he didn't take it well visually from what I could see. I think Luke Humphries just knows from last night he was just unlucky. He didn't do a lot wrong. He did miss some pivotal doubles, but we could say that about anyone that doesn't win a match. But yeah, he didn't do a lot wrong. So I think he's not far away from clicking Luke Humphries, and I will be watching out for him in 2021.
The good thing as well you've got there is, you're quite right, he will be 100 to 1 plus shot in some of these tournaments, largely because he's gone out again in his first hurdle of the Worlds. But that's of no detriment to him, as we say, probably unfortunate circumstances. And I like his treble 19 hitting as well for me. I thought at the big moment in that match last night, he was going down and hitting 2 treble 19s every time. So much pressure on Paul Lim. And let's just finish on that match by talking about Paul Lim's achievement. I think that's the main thing you've got to take away from it. For someone of his age to come here, play one of the most impressive talents in the game, hang on to him when he was being pummeled. He needed every ounce of his experience there to get the job done, Lim. And he deserves that game with Vandenberg. And it's a complete free hit for him, isn't it? No one will expect him to beat Dimitri Vandenberg. But it's daft to write Paul Lim off. His game is still sensational, Nick. His throw, I know he does all the phantom throwing and all this stuff.
Yeah, in the background, he's always...
Yeah. But do you know what? He's so good at it. He's the complete opposite of a modern player, in that modern players are so rhythmical. They often play at a high speed, rush, try to go as quickly as they can. Lim will take 15, 20 seconds to make sure he's right. But what that often does is, at the big moments, he hits that treble 20. He finds it first start because he composes himself, and he's probably thrown millions of darts in his life. He knows exactly how to do it. If he can make it a tight game with Vandenberg, you wouldn't want to completely write him off. But I think it'll be the end of the road for Paul. But what a moment for him again.
Yeah, and the last game of day 4 is not going to take much analysis, to be honest. No. James Wade beat Callum Ridge 3-0. I thought Ridge was disappointing, to be honest. I just thought he was throwing too quick for his own good, and Wade just plodded along at his normal average and his normal style, and he took it 3-0. I said to you straight after that I was impressed with Wade, but then you reminded me that he had the same average as the likes of Luke Humphries and Labanowskis yesterday, or similar averages. So it's not one to get carried away with. It's a decent start for Wade, but Ridge was off the boil for me. Just
a quick word on Callum Ridge. You're right, there's not a lot to say about this game, but this is a player who showed in the first round that he's got a really decent game. He's been in really good form, beating some big names on the floor and done okay on the stage in recent weeks and months. So to turn up and play like that, I think he averaged under 80. It's just that'll really hurt him. About 20 points difference in the average, and it showed. He missed 3 darts at double 12 to make it 1-1. That could have made it a very different game. But as it was, looks routine for Wade. Probably a little bit of an overreaction, as you say, for me on the performance front. He wasn't really pushed. He played well enough, but there's plenty of other players who've impressed me just as much as that so far. But fair play to Wade, didn't do anything wrong.
Yep, so on to day 5, Saturday's action. There is some short prices available today, so some games look a little bit foregone conclusion-ish. Kim Hybretts is one of those against the Chinese qualifier. He's 1-16. Andy Bolton's 1-14 to beat the lady player Detta Hedman, who we mentioned in the preview. Damon Heta is a player that we're on He plays an American qualified Danny Heta is 2-11. And then finally this evening, we see Michael Van Gerwen in action for the first time in this tournament. He's 1-10 to beat Ryan Murray. I think he'll get it done pretty easily. But Pieman's going to just talk you through a couple of the more competitive games today. And I'm guessing you might start with Mervyn King against Max Hopp.
You guessed correctly. Of the four that you've already mentioned, you're right, they don't need really much touching on. But I would just say that we did say in our previews that Danny Baggish is a player not to be underestimated against Heta. So while I'm not saying that he's going to beat him, it wouldn't surprise me if he takes a set and makes it interesting. But Heta's been just so impressive. So hopefully he can continue that. Someone we've been big on in recent weeks. Merv obviously playing Max Hopp. Max Hopp, a player that I've talked about at length, saying that if he can get back to where he was a couple of years ago, he could cause big problems in this tournament. But if Mervyn King turns up playing like he did at the Players' Championship or anywhere near that, I fancy him to beat Hopp. But Merv, at this stage of his career, is capable of having a big off day as well. So not a player you'd be getting behind with serious confidence, but it'd be interesting to see where Merv's game is at if he's still at that level of the Players' Championship. And I'm hoping that he is, because you know that I love Merv and I think he can. He's a pain in the backside for anyone if he's on form. Scott Waite and Matt Campbell is a really interesting game. Scott Waite is first year in the PDC, but he's done it all. This is the two-time BDO champion. He's got a great game. He's still capable of mixing it. Matt Campbell, the Canadian who came over and averaged in the high 90s in all his World Cup games for Canada alongside Jeff Smith. So he looks like he's improving. I think there could be fireworks in that game. I expect Waite to edge it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Campbell wins. Looking forward to watching that one. And then on the other games, Andy Hamilton versus Nicole Kurz. I was a little bit surprised at how short Nicole Kurz is to win this. I know he's a prodigious talent, the young German, and very highly thought of. But Andy Hamilton's got bags of experience in this kind of event, and will be relishing the chance to get back at the World Championships on the TV. I think the hammer's probably a bit too big.
His odds against the hammer, you can get 5-4. The hammer, which may attract some people. Like you say, he's got the experience factor.
Yeah, I think
it'll be an interesting game, that.
Kurz is the better player, no doubt. But I think experience and stuff. We've seen it yesterday with Wayne Jones, Kieran Tian, for example. Kurz a better player than Kieran Tian, probably. But I don't know. I think the hammer can make it difficult. I wouldn't be surprised to see it go 5 sets, to be honest. Steve Lennon should have no problems against Larsen, the Swede, to be honest. Not a particularly attractive game. And I suppose we better touch on Van Gerwen a little bit more. One of the forerunners, the favourite for the tournament, plays Ryan Murray. You wouldn't expect the Scotsman to be able to live with Van Gerwen, to be honest. I expect Van Gerwen to average 10 to 15 points more than Ryan Murray. He's going to need a career best. But just a general observation of Van Gerwen, he does have one of the easier early runs in the tournament.
Definitely, yeah.
No easy games, but when you compare his run to some of his rivals, he's definitely had the more favourable option. And if he could get this done with a minimum of us 3-0, that should potentially favour him coming into the sort of post-Christmas games. But if I had to pick one selection today, I would probably go for Andy Hamilton and Nicole Kurz to go 5 sets.
Yeah, I think that's a fair shout. No particular bets for me today. I'll be keeping a close eye on Damon Heta, and also the Mervyn King and Max Hopp game I'll be watching, because I believe the winner of that plays Jose de Souza, and I would much prefer de Souza to play Max Hopp than Mervyn King, because I think King could try and wind him up and put him off. So yeah, that concludes day 5. There's, like I say, the Sunday that is the last day of round 1 games. Hopefully we'll be back with some more content for that, and then we start getting into a bit of the serious business from Monday onwards, and it's round 2 and round 3. Christmas Eve is a blank day, so as Pieman mentioned earlier, on Christmas Eve we might do a bit of a round 1 wrap up, talk about a couple of the talking points, update on the betting. So if there's anything you want us to cover on Christmas Eve, please do let us know. Other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll speak soon.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.